An entire world is ready for you to start your career teaching the path to wellness.
Mastering the science of mindfulness.
And the art of coaching.
To help clients achieve mental, emotional, and physical betterment of life.
Through movement,
nutrition,
recovery, and regeneration.
Because impacting one person impacts a family.
Impacting a family impacts a community.
And impacting a community impacts the world.
Become an NASM certified wellness coach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Random Fit. I am Wendy Batts here with Ken Miller. Ken, how are you today?
I'm awesome, Wendy. How you doing?
I am so good. Today is going to be a fun day. Not only are we going to talk about a diet that has a lot of people confused, including myself, but we have one of our NASM master instructors that focuses mainly on nutrition, as well as VP of Nutrition Services with Fit, and of course, registered dietitian, Miss Kat Barefield, joining us again to answer all the questions that we have regarding the keto diet. So, Eric, let's bring Kat in.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
So good. How are you?
Fabulous. I'm always happy when I get to chat with you guys about nutrition and fitness stuff. So I'm excited. I got my caffeine ready to go, and let's tackle the keto diet. And there's no butter in it, by the way, just saying.
No butter. All right, let's hit the ground running here. So Kat, when it comes to keto, and there's a lot of different diets out there, but when it comes to keto, what is it?
So keto stands for a ketogenic diet. And what that means is that your body is producing something called ketone bodies. Now, why would it do that? What causes it to do that? Well, starting with the definition, a ketogenic diet is a high fat, moderate protein, very low carbohydrate diet. If you want to put some numbers to it, you could say around 70% fat, 25% protein, 5 to 10% carbohydrates. And to go a little deeper than that, you typically don't eat more than 50 grams of carbohydrates per day. And so carbohydrates are the preferred energy source for the brain, the muscles, etc. And when you're not giving the body carbohydrates, well, it knows how to survive, because that's what we're programmed to do, is survive. So it has lots of adaptive mechanisms, and one is switching fuel sources. So if you're not going to give me carbohydrates, and that's what my body likes, then the body switches its source to fat. And of course, you guys know we have lots of adipose tissue, fat stores on the body. It's our main energy store in the body. And so the body goes, all right, I'll use the fat and I'll turn those into ketones. And guess what? The brain can use ketones as a fuel source. It normally uses glucose, blood sugar, and it will use ketones instead. And then you can stay alive for a little bit longer if you can't find food, or in modern day, it's if you're on a ketogenic diet.
So, Kat, when you say that and you're saying 70% fat, of course, being, a personal trainer, a performance coach and everything, we're always talking about, protein, and the number one source of energy is your carbs. And, now we're thinking about, a keto diet. It seems like, and I know there's a lot of positive research, especially with the obese population, but how can that truly be healthy for you if we're eating mainly fats?
Mainly because of the impact it has on calorie intake. So what the ketogenic diet does, when you cut out carbohydrates, which in the typical American diet is around half of their calorie intake, when you cut it down to 5%, 10%, then you're restricting calories. And so what happens is when you restrict calories, you lose weight. And it's healthy for people to lose weight if they're obese or overweight. It improves a lot of health markers, cardiovascular health markers, blood pressure, blood sugar, insulin levels. And so the health aspects comes mainly from the caloric restriction and the subsequent weight loss.
Who knew?
So when it comes to that, and again, you're talking about fats, proteins. limited carbohydrates, how does that affect cholesterol? So when we're talking about taking in the higher percentage of fat intake, and
Mhm.
again, when you're talking about blood lipid profiles,
Mhm.
is there an effect on cholesterol? And if so, what is it?
Yeah. So as you can imagine, you got your LDL cholesterol, which is considered your bad cholesterol. And there is some debate in the research, but in general, high levels of LDL and specific subtypes increase your risk for cardiovascular disease. And so if you look at the research and doing some prep for this podcast, if you look at the research, some trials do show an elevation in LDL cholesterol. So, and those were on short-term trials, 4-week trials and some, maybe 3-month trials. So you do see that. And do we know if it ultimately has a negative impact? Well, the trials haven't lasted that long to know, but if you extrapolate out following ketogenic diet for years and decades, you would imagine that it would have a negative impact on your cardiovascular disease risk. So there's a little bit of a downside in that regard. And most people don't see that happening in their body when they're following the ketogenic diet for weight loss. So, they don't think about it necessarily. They're losing weight, so they're happy and not necessarily thinking long term. Make sense?
Yeah. So I guess one way to look at it is that if you are using this to change overall size, weight, body composition, so you're saying the immediate effect is going to be an effect in a unfavorable response in your LDL. But overall, if you are managing the total amount of calories, you are exercising and making, good food choices outside of that, then over time, if your weight's lower, your heart is working less, blood pressure is going to get better. And overall, if you are working out and paying attention to your activity, then you're going to affect, again, HDL, LDL, and hopefully improve those ratios as well. Is that something that you found? Or can we extrapolate that?
Yeah. So basically, are you going to see health benefits? Yes. And certain health markers, you're going to see improvement: blood sugar, insulin, triglycerides, perhaps, blood pressure, right? So all these things are going to be beneficial. They're also going to see a negative effect, which is increase in LDL. Do they offset each other over time? We don't know yet. Who knows? We don't know. I guess you could look at observational studies and see, but I don't know that those observational studies have been done, because how long do people stick to ketogenic diets?
Right.
That's one of the complaints about it, is it's hard to stick to. So,
well, that actually kind of brings me to like another question that we had for you. But, what is, how long do people usually stay on this type of diet, to see the markers that they're hoping to see? But once they decide that they're done with it, like, I'm done with keto, I want to go back to normal living and not have to really look at percentages of what I'm eating. I know that this has happened in multiple other diets when they started going back to everyday life. Even if they made positive, choices in their food, they gained weight back. So is that something that you often see with someone that says, okay, I'm done, I'm going back to normal living?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they sort of had this love-hate relationship with it, right? In general, there are some people who it works for them. It's fabulous. They can stick to it long-term. They love the keto lifestyle. My experience is most people that try and attempt the keto diet for weight loss, they have a hard time sticking to it long-term. So it's a range. Sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes a year. But in general, people tend to sometimes cycle on and off the keto diet. They try to stick to the lifestyle, but they have a challenging time doing that, because imagine 70% of your calories come from fat. So, it's not an easy lifestyle to adapt necessarily, but for some people it works. For some people it works.
Yep. So we're here talking with Miss Kat Barefield, registered dietitian and NASM master instructor in nutrition. So Kat, one of the things that we, as far as the effects on the body, and one of the things that comes up is you're emitting a certain aroma or a certain smell. Can you? Yeah, I mean, I don't want. There's no good way of putting
Your
that.
breath?
Your breath. Right. So let's talk about breath.
Yeah.
But there's that. Can you explain that, and anything else that someone might experience from changing their diet to reflect more of the
Yeah,
keto?
yeah. So keto breath is definitely a side effect of being on the ketogenic diet. And it's because your body's producing these ketone bodies, right? So the ketones have a distinct smell. So it may be sort of a nail polishy smell. Is that how you guys would describe it? So it's sort of this weird, funky, fruity smell, right? Like, so those are the ketones in your urine and in your blood. And so what do people do? They drink more water, they chew gum, they use mouthwash, but it's kind of comes with following diets. For some people, it subsides, other people, it persists. But yeah, it is a side effect. And another side effect is keto flu, which is basically having flu-like symptoms the first week or two of following the ketogenic diet, and that tends to go away. I'm sorry, I'm burning incense, so that's what you see is my incense. But the keto flu is also another one, maybe GI distress, constipation or even diarrhea, upset stomach, and that tends to subside as well with time on the ketogenic diet. You could also have low energy levels. Initially, some people report having better energy levels once they've quote unquote adapted. So it really depends. Nutrition is so personal to the individual. It's almost the most common answers you're going to get from most dietitians about a nutrition question is it depends, because it really does to a certain degree. Those are the general things that might happen.
So, Kat, for people that are going to say, okay, I'm going to start keto, like how long does it take, like for your body to get into ketosis, like you're talking about?
Yeah. Within the first week, you're going to be in it. If you're at 5 to 10% carbohydrates, the lower your carbohydrate restriction, the lower your calorie intake, the faster you can get yourself in the, into ketosis, because again, the body goes, I'm not getting enough carbs, so I got to switch fuel sources here. So, within the first week, you could be right in ketosis and losing weight right away, seeing the scale drop down, and maybe experiencing some of those side effects. So another, I should say, a positive side effect of the ketogenic diet, aside from weight loss, would be you don't experience as much hunger as compared to other diets. So a lot of people will say on the ketogenic diet they're not hungry, and of course, hunger is miserable. So nobody wants to feel that, and that's what they like the best about it. Is one, I just don't have to eat carbs, so it's really simple. I don't have to count calories or macros, anything like that. I just don't eat carbs. Well, maybe I count my carbs. And I don't feel hungry on it. So people like that, and they see immediate results, right? The issue is long-term wise, it's really difficult to stick to in general.
Now, when it comes to, and that's a lot of upside. If I, because there's been times where I've, made conscious efforts to watch my calories, limit my calories, watch the macronutrient makeup of what I'm actually eating. So if you're talking about, you experience less hunger, right? That's a big thing. It's a huge thing for me, because nothing worse than you're sitting there and you're thinking, hey, I can't eat for another 3 hours. And all you're thinking about for the next 3 hours is like, when's my, what am I going to eat? Where am I going to eat it? All that stuff. So when you're talking about diets and different things that you can do to manage your calories and the calorie makeup is, and I'm kind of just putting this on you, Kat. Where does it rank as far as what options there are as far as managing weight?
In terms of effectiveness?
Well, as far as other diet options versus keto,
so
professional experience.
Well, probably what most people wonder is what's the best weight loss diet, right? That people wonder, like, which one's the best for how much weight I can lose? And the answer is it's the one you can stick to. Because if you match calories, right, whether it's high carb or high fat in general, and you match protein, you basically get similar results. That's what the data shows. So it's the one you can stick to. Now, that doesn't mean the diet's healthy in terms of a nutritional standpoint, right? It's not nutritious. It's not full of vitamins and minerals and things like that. But in terms of weight loss, fasting, keto, paleo, all these different diets, they're effective because they restrict calories. So again, I'm going to go back to it's the one you can stick to for weight loss.
Kat, when we're talking about, keto, usually I'm talking about like my adult clients that have asked me about it, and they have either been on it, and I've
Yep.
experienced some of the smells and, how tired they were when they first started, which I found very interesting because they had zero energy for multiple days. And then all of a sudden they came in like a new person.
Yeah.
But is there any research or in your experience, is keto safe for kids? Because we're seeing the obesity rates now starting in children.
Yeah.
So would this be something that's safe for a child or no?
Well, the ketogenic diet was initially developed for treating a neurological disease, epilepsy, in kids. So it's been used as a treatment. Is it a generally healthy diet for kids? Well, in general, we don't like to restrict calories for kids because they're still growing. And so if you got a growing and developing kid, they've got to have adequate nutrition. And the last thing you want to do is eliminate whole food groups or nutritious foods from them. So if they're obese, then you're going to want them to be supervised, and work with a licensed individual to make sure that they're, being monitored and getting adequate nutrition, because their growth and development is in most cases the top priority, is making sure they don't have health issues from following the diet.
Right. So again, while talking about kids, Wendy, it's funny you bring that up, because if this is something, again, we're not trying to take things away from the kids, but if I were to, let's say, have a keto friendly, because this has also come up with friends of ours, who trying to follow, they've tried to follow this for themselves, and of course their grocery list looks a certain way. What might a keto friendly nutrition plan look like? What's on your grocery list when it comes to doing this kind of formatted meal plan?
Yeah, so top of mind is high fat foods, right? So olive oil, full fat dairy, nuts, fatty fish, steaks, things like that. So those are top, because it's going to be 70% of your calories, which are coming from fat. And then you've got, some proteins. So the fatty proteins, maybe even the healthy, omega rich fit, like salmon, mackerel, maybe some tuna, that would fall into there. And then of course, in terms of carbohydrates, most of that's going to come from your green veggies, right? Celery, zucchini, jicama. It's not green, but it's a low carb vegetable. And then, your greens, of course, spinach, and all the leafy greens that are out there are going to be helpful. Tomatoes, onions, any low carbohydrate veggies. So the high carbohydrate veggies are the starchy ones, like potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, lentils, peas, corn. You're basically avoiding any whole grains, obviously, any type of carbohydrate source from a wheat product, rice. You don't eat those for the most part.
Interesting.
So,
well, those of you guys that are joining Ken Miller and myself on Random Fit, we have a special guest, Miss Kat Barefield, registered dietitian, and she's talking us through the keto diet. And she just went through the grocery list, and I was like, you know what, all of that stuff, check, doesn't sound so bad. And I'm glad you talked about it, because when you hear high fats, of course, I'm thinking desserts, butter, bacon. so
that's on there for a lot of people, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you actually brought in a lot more, Kat, a lot more stuff that I didn't even really think about. So I'm like, but I have that on my diet. So I'm like, maybe I should rethink what I'm eating every night.
Yeah. So, butter can be part of it. Bacon can be part of it, certainly. But again, we want to focus on what are the healthier sources that don't have a ton of saturated fat on it, right? To our point earlier about raising LDL cholesterol levels and, increasing risk of cardiovascular disease. So it's not so bad. Like I said, some people can follow it, but for most, not to be able to have birthday cake or, a bagel or some pasta every, once in a while, or potatoes, that's difficult for a lot of people. And there's really no need to cut it from a nutritional standpoint, from a weight loss standpoint, unless you aren't able to control your calorie intake.
Well, I have one more question for you, and I don't mean to butt in, but you can ask, I think, some final questions if you want. But the one question that I have for you being a registered dietitian, and I know you get questions from people like myself, you get questions from everyone. Is this a diet that you recommend for people? And then what are the boundaries of like yes, no, and don't say it depends, because there's got to be something.
You know I'm going to say that. You know I'm going to say it depends.
I said that. So I'm trying to think, is this, because I mean, again, you do a lot of the research and you know everything out there, and not everything, but you know a lot of things, and you hear about these different diets. Is this one that you strongly recommend for people?
In general, no. In general, no. It's nutritionally inadequate in a lot of regards, especially if you're trying to optimize body composition, which many of our clients are trying to do. It has a lot of micronutrient gaps, which can create issues in terms of long-term health, and it's difficult to stick to. So it's not my favorite thing, right? But if someone maybe has issues with blood sugar control, their blood sugars are super high, and they've tried a lot of other things, and they really need to aggressively lose some weight, then it might be something to try for sure. It's definitely in the toolbox, but it's not my favorite tool, because I like for people to learn how to change their habits so that they can enjoy their food for a lifetime and not have to be on this, diet roller coaster, so to speak, going on and off different diets.
No, that's a great question, Wendy, because that was pretty much what I was going to ask as far as the rank of things. Is there something that you'd put out there? But, to your point, Kat, earlier, is, as far as diets go, the best one, that I took away was, as far as diets go, it's the one you're going to stick with. Right. But on top of that nugget, are there any other takeaways that you'd want our average listener to want to kind of pull away from this podcast episode?
Well, again, I think, Wendy, it depends on what the listener is trying to achieve. But the keto diet is not inherently superior to other weight loss diets. There's no magic about it. There's no, oh my God, it's just better because it's the keto. No. So it's what can you sustain it, and what can make it a lifestyle for you that you can keep up with, so that when you do want to achieve that weight loss goal, assuming that's what you're looking for, it stays off. And you're not putting your long-term health at risk. So yeah, you're going to probably lose some weight. Your cholesterol is not your cholesterol, I shouldn't say cholesterol, your, blood sugar, your triglycerides, your blood pressure, all of that stuff's going to improve. But then if you're missing micronutrients or you're losing too much muscle tissue, then what's the cost? So that's something to look at as well. Missing micronutrients means you can put yourself at risk for chronic diseases later on down the line. Losing muscle down the road means you might have functional decline, and you increase your risk for falls and fractures. So, what's the cost? You got to look at that too. You can't just be short-sighted. So as a dietitian, if some people want to follow a diet, it's like, okay, let's look at your diet. And then, okay, these are some of the nutrient gaps in your diet if you're going to follow this plan. So let's plug those nutrient gaps in. And it's no surprise. You guys know I'm the VP of Nutrition Service for .fit. So, okay, you're missing omegas. Let's plug that in. You need a multivitamin because we know you're not getting all the vitamins and minerals, right? So those are the things that I get to do, is I get to plug in the gaps. And everybody can do that. Really, you don't have to be a dietitian, but you've got to take it into consideration. All diets reduce vitamin and mineral intake. And vitamins and minerals are essential to life, and your body can't make them except for vitamin D when you get sunshine. So you got to plug your gaps, because your long-term health matters too.
So can you be on keto and take all of your vitamins that you need, or will that counteract and switch out?
As they say, not everything replaces whole foods, right? So you're not going to get adequate amounts of a wide variety of fiber from vitamins and supplements, right? So, but you can get a lot of the essential nutrients with supplements. You can get your B vitamins and your fat soluble vitamins, and, you can get omegas, etc. But certain things, you can't replace whole foods. So we like to complement eating the best you can with the right supplements that, complement each other.
Nice. All about a compliment, Kat.
All about it. All about it. And nowadays, you guys know, we rant about this all the time. following a diet can give you weight loss, but people don't think. I don't see my bones deteriorating because I'm not getting enough calcium. I don't feel that happening in my body, so I don't think about it. Well, okay, well, when you get weak bones and you end up fracturing your hip and you have to have surgery, it's unfortunate that people can't see the nutrient gaps in their diet occurring in real time, because if they could see it occurring in real time, then they would plug their gaps or they would make better choices, right? And that's the problem with micronutrients is you can't see it happening. It's insidious. It's slow. So,
well, I know for myself and my clients that are on it, I ask that they do get their blood work done. I do ask that they look, have a registered dietitian look to make sure that they're staying within, healthy levels of where they need to be. Because again, I personally, I could never do that type of diet. I've seen it done, and I'm like, the excess stuff that people are eating, and then they're not hungry. And I actually have to spend the day with them about to eat my arm. And they're like, oh no, I can wait till dinner. And I'm like, dude, I got to have lunch. So I'm peacing out,
yeah.
But yeah, it is amazing to me. And like I said, I've seen some people that they look amazing and they swear by it. But then I have others that ended up having some health issues, as you mentioned, because they did do their physical. And the first thing that their doctor said was, look at your cholesterol. That was the number one thing that stood out the most. Because
to look at their LDL cholesterol,
yes,
their bad cholesterol.
You're like, what did you do in 1 year? What have you done? And it was
right.
it was very significant for this particular individual. And so,
yeah, no, I've had the same thing. I've had the same thing happen on my end, and then we didn't even talk about this, but with exercisers, if you're an athlete or a high intensity exerciser and you're only getting 50 grams of carbohydrates a day, you're going to have a hard time working your hardest and doing high intensity activities, because your body's running off an alternate fuel source. It likes carbs. Muscle likes carbohydrates. So, and then some people, what they do to get around that is they'll eat carbohydrates around their workout. So they're sort of on this modified keto diet. So that's how they'll tend to get around it. But, again, there's pros and cons to every diet, really. And so we probably should dig deeper into some of the other ones because, pros and cons for everyone. But at the end of the day, can you stick to it? And can we do the best we can plugging our nutrient gaps, as much as possible if you are going to choose a specific diet?
We have to have you back, Kat. That's what that means.
We're going to have to talk about other stuff now.
We have to.
Yeah, we have to.
No.
Yeah. I mean, this was great. And I know for myself, a lot of good, useful information when it comes to this, because, the realization that it is about, again, we've said this on other podcast recordings with you, Kat, it's the best diet is the one that you're going to stick to, right?
For weight loss.
For weight loss, right.
She always throws that in, for weight loss.
Throw that.
For weight loss.
It really depends.
And it really depends. I got to qualify it because people take things out of context. Like, what does she mean? It only, people say this all the time too. So it's only calories that count. For weight loss, yeah. Not for general health, right? Not for overall nutrition, but for weight loss, yeah. It's a matter of calories, really, at the end of the day. I know people don't like that, but that's how the body works.
Where's the wisdom from?
I didn't make the rules.
That's what you need to put in your signature. That's how the body works.
That's how the body works. And it depends.
That's right. So, Kat, hey, thank you so much. I mean, a lot of great pieces of information as far as what is keto, how does it work, what does it look like, how does it affect the body. So, I mean, great dive into this topic. So, thank you again. Always a pleasure having you here with us on
Thank you.
And we will have you back again. So
okay, it's an honor. And I just want to say this because people might think this is weird. The incense that you see flying around, right? It's really a stress reducer. It's a form of aromatherapy. So on days where you feel especially stressful, and sometimes maybe you might want to stress eat, incorporating some aromatherapy might help control that stress and might help control your overall calorie intake. So there's a rationale. Okay.
I know there was just a certain aura around you that was coming through on the screen.
We might as well create the aura we want, right? I want low stress. So, let's create, let's manifest it.
Hey, we're coming over. We're coming over.
That's right.
You're welcome to come over. Well, thanks guys for having me. We'll see you next time to talk about the next diet.
We will, definitely have you on again. So again, on behalf of both Wendy Batts and I, and again, thank you, Kat, so much for being here. If you guys liked what you had to hear today, like, follow, subscribe, and comment. Let us know what else you want to hear about, especially with nutrition. We'll have Miss Kat Barefield on here again. So until next time, take care and be well.